The cooking demonstration that followed Jake's victory was unlike anything the Zephyrians had ever witnessed. The same platform where he had just defeated their greatest warrior was quickly transformed into a kitchen workspace. Jake arranged his knives with the same precision he had shown in combat, each blade in its proper place. "What you saw in our duel was just the beginning," Jake announced to the assembled crowd. "Real knife skills aren't about fighting, they're about creation." He selected a piece of the strange alien meat the Zephyrians had provided. It was tough and fibrous, nothing like the quality ingredients he was used to working with. But a good chef could make anything taste good with the right technique. Jake's knife moved across the meat in smooth, confident strokes, where moments before it had been a weapon of war, now it became a tool of art. He broke down the tough protein into perfect portions, removing the sinew and fat with surgical precision. The watching Zephyrians leaned forward in their seats. They had seen Jake's blade work in combat, but this was different. Every cut served a purpose, every motion was calculated to improve the final result. There was no wasted effort, no unnecessary flourishes. "Your people consume nutrients through crystalline pods," Jake said as he worked. "But humans discovered long ago that food can be more than just fuel. It can be art, culture, even love expressed through careful preparation." Kalthara had moved closer to the platform, her 4 eyes tracking every movement of Jake's knife. "The precision is the same as in combat," she observed, "but the intent is completely different." "Exactly," Jake smiled as he moved to the alien vegetables. "A warrior cuts to destroy, a chef cuts to transform. Same skill, different purpose." He began to work on what looked like crystalline roots, his knife dancing through them in patterns that turned rough chunks into perfect dice. The Zephyrians watched in fascination as the raw ingredients were transformed into something that looked almost artistic. High Commander Vexler descended from his raised platform to get a closer look. "You handle these tools with the same mastery you showed against Kalthara. How long did it take you to achieve such skill?" 15 years of daily practice," Jake replied, not pausing in his work. 8 hours a day minimum. Sometimes 12 or 14 during busy seasons. Every cut teaches you something new. Every mistake makes you better." 15 years, Vexler repeated, his tone thoughtful. "Our warriors train for centuries to achieve such precision with their blades." "But they're training for one purpose," Jake pointed out. "I trained for hundreds of different techniques. Every ingredient requires different handling. Every dish demands its own approach. Adaptation is everything." Jake moved to the improvised cooking surface, adjusting the heat by touch and instinct. The searing meat filled the hall with aromas that the Zephyrians had never experienced. Their crystalline features showed confusion as they tried to process these new sensations. "What is that smell?" asked one of the younger Zephyrians from the gallery. "That's the Maillard reaction," Jake explained, flipping the meat with a precise motion. "When proteins and sugars react to heat, they create new flavors and aromas. It's chemistry, but it's also art." As Jake continued cooking, he began to explain the science behind what he was doing, how heat broke down tough fibers in meat, how acid could balance rich flavors, how timing and temperature control could mean the difference between a perfect dish and a disaster. The Zephyrians listened with growing interest. These concepts were foreign to their culture, but they could see the complexity and skill involved. This wasn't primitive food preparation. This was advanced chemistry applied with artistic precision. "Your species has developed this knowledge over thousands of years?" Kalthara asked. "Longer," Jake said, plating the finished dish with careful attention to presentation. "Cooking is one of the things that made us human. Learning to control fire, to transform raw ingredients into something better. It shaped our evolution, our culture, our society." He presented the completed dish to High Commander Vexler, who studied it with obvious curiosity. The meat was perfectly cooked, the vegetables arranged in patterns that pleased the eye, the sauce pooled in elegant swirls around the plate. "You want me to consume this?" Vexler asked. "Food is meant to be shared," Jake said. "In human culture, cooking for someone is a sign of respect and friendship. I can't force you to try it, but I hope you will. Vexler looked at the dish, then at Jake, then at the hundreds of Zephyrians watching from the galleries. Finally, he picked up a piece of the meat with his crystalline fingers and placed it in his mouth. The reaction was immediate. Vexler's 4 eyes widened in surprise, then closed as he experienced flavors his species had never known. The other members of the High Council moved closer, their own curiosity overcoming their caution. This is ... remarkable, Vexler said after swallowing. The sensations are unlike anything we have known. There are layers of taste, textures that change as you consume them. Jake prepared more portions, sharing them with Kalthara and the other council members. Each Zephyrian's reaction was similar: surprise, then wonder, then a growing appreciation for the complexity of what they were experiencing. You have opened our understanding to new possibilities, Kalthara said after tasting her portion. We thought of food preparation as primitive necessity, but this requires knowledge, skill, and artistry equal to our greatest crafts. Captain Grant, who had been watching nervously from the edge of the platform, finally allowed himself to smile. The mission was succeeding beyond their wildest hopes. High Commander Vexler stood and addressed the assembled crowd. Today we have witnessed something unprecedented. This human has defeated our greatest warrior in single combat, then demonstrated mastery of skills we had not imagined. Chef Jake Martinez has shown us that his species possesses dedication, precision, and artistry, worthy of our respect. The hall erupted in approving sounds, the Zephyrian equivalent of applause. Jake felt a wave of relief wash over him. He had done it. Somehow, impossibly, he had succeeded. The Galactic Council will hear of this day, Vexler continued. Humanity has proven itself through the dedication of one individual who pursued excellence in his chosen craft. This is a lesson for all species. True strength comes not just from warriors, but from masters of any discipline. As the formal ceremony concluded, Kalthara approached Jake one final time. You have given me a great gift today, she said. You have shown me that there are many ways to achieve mastery. I would learn more of these human cooking techniques if you would teach me. Jake grinned, exhaustion and relief making him giddy. I'd be honored to teach you. But fair warning, learning to cook takes a lot longer than learning to fight. Then we shall have much time to understand each other. Kalthara replied. 3 months later, Jake returned to Earth as a hero. The Zephyrian alliance had been secured, trade agreements were signed, and humanity's reputation in the galaxy had been transformed. But Jake's favorite part of the whole experience was the message he received from Kalthara, asking for his recipe for the crystalline root vegetables. When reporters asked him how a chef had managed to defeat an alien swordmaster, Jake always gave the same answer. I just treated it like any other service. Keep your knives sharp, your mind focused, and remember that every skill, when mastered with dedication, is worthy of respect. The story spread throughout human space and beyond, becoming legend. Jake Martinez, the chef who fought with a kitchen knife and won the respect of a warrior species through the power of perfectly prepared food. It was the kind of story that reminded everyone why humanity deserved its place among the stars. Maya's head pounded as she tested the metal chains that held her arms and legs to the chair. The restraints were tight but not impossible to work with. She had been trained for this situation, though she had hoped never to use that training. General Vorthik stood up from his chair and walked around the small room. The walls were made of dark metal, and the only light came from a single bulb hanging from the ceiling. Maya could hear the hum of machinery somewhere beyond the walls. She was deep inside the fortress, far from any hope of rescue. Your team escaped with our battle plans, the general said in his cold voice, but those plans are false. We wanted you to steal them. Maya kept her face blank, but inside she felt a chill. If the intelligence was fake, then her sacrifice had been for nothing. Her team would report back to command with useless information. I can see you understand, Vorthik continued. Your human military will prepare for attacks that will never come. Meanwhile, we will strike where they least expect it. The general stopped in front of her chair and leaned down until his yellow eyes were level with hers. Mayo could smell his breath, which reminded her of rotting meat. "But you know about Operation Homecoming," he said. "The real human counterattack. That information is what I need." Maya stared back at him without speaking. Operation Homecoming was humanity's last chance to push the Krillians back from human space. If the aliens learned about it, thousands of human soldiers would die in the trap. "I thought you might be stubborn," Vorthak said. He walked to a control panel on the wall and pressed several buttons. "Let me show you what happens to stubborn humans." A machine descended from the ceiling. It looked like a metal helmet with wires and sharp points. Maya recognized it from intelligence reports. It was a neural disruptor designed to cause incredible pain while keeping the victim conscious. "This device will not kill you," the general explained. "It will make you wish you were dead. The pain will be beyond anything you have experienced. But you will remain awake and aware throughout the process." The machine lowered toward Maya's head. She tried to move away, but the chains held her in place. The metal helmet settled over her skull as she felt the sharp points pressing against her skin. "Tell me about Operation Homecoming," Vorthak said. "Save yourself this pain." Maya closed her eyes and thought about her training. The instructors had taught her to find an anchor in her mind, something to hold on to when everything else was chaos. She thought about her team. Danny, Lisa, and Alex were probably halfway home by now. They would deliver the false intelligence. But at least they were alive. "I'm waiting," the general said. Maya opened her eyes and looked directly at him. "Go to hell." Vorthak smiled, showing his sharp teeth. He pressed a button on the control panel. The pain hit Maya like a lightning bolt. It felt like every nerve in her body was on fire. She bit down hard on her tongue to keep from screaming. The pain lasted for 10 seconds, then stopped. "That was the lowest setting," Vorthak said. "We can go much higher." Maya tasted blood in her mouth but said nothing. She thought about the dog tags around the general's neck. Each one represented a human soldier who had died fighting the aliens. She wondered if any of them had been tortured in this same room. "You humans are so emotional," the general continued. "You form attachments to your fellow soldiers. You call it loyalty, but it is weakness. Tell me about Operation Homecoming, and I will ensure your team reaches home safely." Maya's heart jumped. Were her teammates still in danger? She studied the general's face, looking for signs of deception. Krillians were good liars, but they had tells if you knew what to look for. "They are already gone," she said. "Are they?" Vorthak asked. "Perhaps they are. Or perhaps my ships are hunting them even now. Their transport vessel is not very fast. It would be easy to catch." Maya felt anger rising in her chest. The general was playing with her emotions, trying to make her break. She forced herself to calm down and think clearly. "You're lying," she said. "If you could catch them, you would have done it already. You need me to talk because that's your only option." The general's smile faded. He pressed the button again, and the pain returned twice as strong. Maya's body convulsed against the chains, but she managed to keep from crying out. This time the pain lasted for 20 seconds. "Your determination is admirable," Vorthak said when the machine stopped, "but ultimately pointless. I have broken prisoners much stronger than you. Krillian prisoners who had been trained from birth to resist interrogation." Maya's vision was blurry from the pain, but she could still see the dog tags hanging from the general's neck. She counted them again. 23 tags from 23 dead Marines. Each one had probably sat in this same chair, facing the same machine. "Those soldiers," she said, nodding toward the tags, "did they break?" "Eventually," Vorthak replied. "They all break in the end. Some take longer than others, but the result is always the same." Maya thought about her fallen comrades. She had known some of them personally. Lieutenant Jake Torres had been captured 6 months ago. His dog tags were probably among the general's collection. Jake had been tough, but even he had limits. "What did they tell you?" Maya asked. "Everything I wanted to know," the general said. "Attack patterns, ship locations, troop movements. Your species is very talkative once the pain becomes unbearable," Maya felt something cold settle in her stomach. If the general already knew so much about human military operations, why did he need her? Operation Homecoming must be compartmentalized, known only to a few high-ranking officers. But you don't know about Homecoming, she said. That's why you set up this whole trap. You knew I would have access to the information. The general's eyes narrowed. You are more perceptive than I expected. Yes, your security protocols have improved. The information is now limited to a select few, but you, Lieutenant Rodriguez, are one of those few. Maya realized she was in more trouble than she had thought. The general was right. She did know about Operation Homecoming. As a reconnaissance specialist, she had been briefed on the mission so she could gather intelligence for the assault. I'm not telling you anything, she said. We shall see, Vorthak replied. He walked back to the control panel and studied the settings. I think it is time to increase the intensity. This machine has 10 levels of pain. You have experienced levels 1 and 2. Let us try level 4. The machine hummed with increased power. Maya closed her eyes and thought about her hometown on Earth. She pictured her parents' house, with its small garden and white fence. Her mother would be working in the vegetable patch, and her father would be reading the news on his tablet. The pain hit her like a truck. Every muscle in her body locked up, and she felt like her bones were being crushed. This time she could not stop herself from screaming. The sound echoed off the metal walls of the room. When it stopped, Maya was gasping for breath. Sweat covered her face and her hands were shaking. Level 4, the general said calmly. We still have 6 levels to go. Are you ready to talk about Operation Homecoming? Maya lifted her head and looked at him. The dog tags caught the light as he moved. 23 Marines had died to protect human secrets. She would not let their sacrifice be meaningless. I told you already, she said through gritted teeth. Go to hell. Maya's body shook from the aftereffects of the neural disruptor. 2 hours had passed since the torture began, and General Vorthak had worked his way up to level 6. The pain was beyond anything she had imagined possible, but she was still conscious, and still refusing to talk. You are stronger than most humans, the general admitted as he studied the readings on his control panel. But you are not stronger than this machine. Level 7 will break your mind permanently. You will spend the rest of your life in a vegetative state. Maya forced herself to look at him. Her vision was blurry, and every part of her body ached. But her mind was still clear. That was the key. As long as she could think, she could fight. Maybe, she said, her voice rough from screaming. But you won't get your information from a vegetable. The general's tail lashed behind him, a sign of frustration that Maya had learned to recognize. Krillians were proud creatures, and Vorthak clearly did not like being defied by what he considered an inferior species. Your human arrogance is fascinating, he said. You think you are special because you refuse to break? But I have tortured hundreds of prisoners from dozens of species. They all thought they were special too. Maya studied the general's face as he spoke. She had been watching him carefully during the torture sessions, looking for weaknesses. Krillians were intelligent but predictable. They respected strength and despised weakness. Most importantly, they had massive egos. But none of them were human, Maya said. What makes humans so different? Vorthak asked with a sneer. Maya managed a weak smile. We're crazy enough to fight wars we can't win. We're stupid enough to sacrifice ourselves for strangers. And we're stubborn enough to keep fighting even when we're already dead. The general walked closer to her chair. Pretty words. But words will not save you from level 7. Maya had been waiting for this moment. She had spent the last hour studying the room, the machine, and the general's patterns. Vorthak was confident, maybe too confident. He had dismissed his guards. An hour ago, wanting to handle the interrogation personally. You know what I think? Maya said, looking directly into his yellow eyes. I think you're scared. The general's scales darkened with anger. I am not scared of anything, least of all a pathetic human. Then why are you taking so long? Maya asked. If you're so good at this, why haven't you broken me yet? Maybe the Great General Vorthak isn't as skilled as everyone thinks? Vorthak's claws extended from his fingers. Maya had hit a nerve. The general's reputation was everything to him. In Krillian society, failure meant death or exile. I am taking my time because I enjoy watching you suffer, he said. Or maybe you're afraid that if you use level 7, you'll scramble my brain. Before I can tell you what you want to know, Maya continued. Maybe you're not confident enough in your abilities to risk it. The general's breathing became faster. Maya could see the anger building in his eyes. Angry enemies made mistakes, and mistakes were what she needed. You think you understand us, Vorthak said, but you know nothing about Krillian psychology. I know enough, Maya replied. I know that you wear those dog tags because you need everyone to see how tough you are. I know that you sent your guards away because you don't want them to see how long it's taking you to break one human. And I know that you're starting to wonder if maybe humans really are different. The general grabbed the front of Maya's shirt and pulled her forward until their faces were inches apart. You will tell me about Operation Homecoming, or I will make you beg for death? Maya had been working on loosening her restraints while they talked. The chains were tight, but not impossible to manipulate if you knew how. She had learned the technique from a prisoner of war survival course, though she had never expected to use it. Here's what I know about Operation Homecoming, she said quietly. It's going to destroy your entire fleet. The general's eyes widened. Explain. Maya leaned back in her chair, testing the looseness of the chains around her wrists. Almost there. You really want to know? Tell me, Vorthak demanded. The human fleet has developed a new weapon, Maya said, making her voice sound. Defeated. Something called a quantum disruption cannon? It can destroy an entire ship with one shot. The general's interest was clearly caught. This was the kind of information he needed. How many ships carry this weapon? All of them, Maya lied. The entire human fleet has been retrofitted. That's why Operation Homecoming is so dangerous. We're not just planning an attack. We're planning to wipe out every Krillian ship in the sector. Vorthak stepped back from her chair. That is impossible. We would have detected such modifications. Would you? Maya asked. You detected our reconnaissance mission, but you didn't detect the quantum weapons. Maybe your intelligence isn't as good as you think. The general began pacing around the room. Maya could see his mind working, trying to process this new information. She had given him something that sounded believable, but was completely false. There was no quantum disruption cannon, but the general didn't know that. Where are these weapons manufactured? He asked. I don't know, Maya said. That information is above my security level, but you know when the attack will begin. Maya pretended to hesitate. I can't tell you that. You can and you will, Vorthak said. He reached for the control panel. Wait, Maya said quickly. If I tell you, what guarantee do I have that you won't just kill me? The general smiled coldly. You have no guarantees. But if you tell me what I want to know, I will make your death quick and painless. Maya had managed to work one hand almost free from its restraint. She needed just a little more time. The attack begins in 6 days, she said. 6 days, the general repeated, and the target? Your main fleet base at Kepler 186F, Maya said. The humans are going to hit it with everything. They have. Vorthak's eyes gleamed with satisfaction. Finally, you see? Everyone breaks eventually. Maya tested her loosened restraint one more time. It was ready. There's one more thing, she said. What? The humans aren't just coming for your fleet, Maya said, her voice growing stronger. They're coming for you personally. They know about this place and they know about your collection of dog tags. The general frowned. What are you talking about? Maya's hand slipped free from the restraint. They know that you torture prisoners. They know that you keep trophies from dead soldiers. And they're going to make you pay for it. That is impossible, Vorthak said, but there was uncertainty in his voice. Is it? Maya asked. You think you're safe in this fortress, but human special forces are very good at infiltration. They might already be inside. The general looked toward the door, doubt creeping into his expression. Maya used that moment of distraction to free her other hand. The chains around her legs would take longer, but she was making progress. "You're lying," Vorthak said, but he didn't sound convinced. "Maybe," Maya said. "Or maybe you should check with your perimeter guards. When was the last time you heard from them?" The general's tail lashed nervously. Maya could see that she had planted seeds of doubt in his mind. He was starting to question whether his fortress was as secure as he thought. "The quantum weapons are real," Maya continued. "The attack on your fleet base is real, and the human soldiers who are coming for you are very real. The only question is whether you'll still be alive when they get here." Vorthak stared at her for a long moment. Maya could see the conflict in his eyes. Part of him wanted to believe her story, but part of him suspected she was lying. "You almost had me convinced," he said finally. "But I know desperation when I see it. You are trying to manipulate me." Maya's heart sank, but she kept her expression neutral. "Am I?" "Yes," the general said, "but it does not matter." "True or false? This information is valuable. My fleet will be ready for any human attack." He turned back to the control panel and began adjusting the settings. "I think it is time for level 7. If you survive it, perhaps you will be ready to tell me the truth." Maya looked at the neural disruptor hanging above her head. She had maybe 30 seconds before the general activated it. Her legs were still chained, but her hands were free. It was now or never. "General," she said. "What?" "I lied about the quantum weapons," Maya said. "But I didn't lie about the humans. Coming for you." Before Vorthak could respond, Maya lunged forward and grabbed the dog tags around his neck. Maya's fingers closed around the chain of dog tags as General Vorthak stumbled backward in shock. The metal tags cut into her palm, but she held on tight. 23 dead Marines had worn these tags, and she was not going to let them stay around the alien's neck. "Get away from me!" Vorthak snarled, his claws reaching for Maya's face. Maya ducked under his swipe and used the chain to pull herself up from the chair. Her legs were still chained, but she managed to stand on her feet. The general was bigger and stronger than her, but she had caught him off guard. Vorthak grabbed her wrist and tried to pry her fingers loose from the dog tags. His claws dug into her skin, drawing blood. Maya gritted her teeth and held on. She had endured 3 hours of torture. A few cuts were nothing compared to that. "These belong to human soldiers," she said through clenched teeth. "Not to you." The general twisted her arm, trying to break her grip. Maya used his momentum against him, spinning around and wrapping the chain around his thick neck. Vorthak's eyes went wide as he realized what she was doing. "You cannot defeat me," he gasped, his hands reaching up to grab the chain. "I'm twice your size." Maya pulled tighter. "Size doesn't matter when you can't breathe." The general thrashed wildly, his tail whipping back and forth. He slammed Maya against the wall, trying to knock her loose. Pain shot through her back, but she held on. She had learned in training that once you committed to a fight, you had to see it through to the end. Vorthak spun around and charged toward the opposite wall, planning to crush Maya between his body and the hard surface. Maya saw what he was trying to do and shifted her weight at the last second. Instead of hitting the wall, the general's head struck the metal surface with a loud clang. The impact stunned him for a moment, and Maya used the opportunity to wrap the chain around his neck one more time. Now she had a better grip, and the general was starting to weaken from lack of air. "You want to know about human soldiers?" Maya said, her voice hard with anger. "We don't give up. We don't surrender, and we don't let our friends die for nothing." Vorthak tried to speak, but only gurgling sounds came out. His movements were getting slower and weaker. Maya could see the fear in his yellow eyes. He was not used to being the one in danger. The general made one last desperate attempt to break free. He grabbed Maya's shoulders and lifted her off the ground, then slammed her down hard on the floor. The impact knocked the wind out of her lungs, and for a moment her grip on the chain loosened. Vorthak clawed at the chain around his neck, trying to pull it free. His breathing was harsh and labored. Maya rolled away from him and got back to her feet, despite the chains around her legs. "This is not over," the general wheezed. Yes, it is, Maya said. She lunged forward and grabbed the chain again, this time getting both hands around it. Vorthak was too weak to fight back effectively. The lack of oxygen was making him dizzy and confused. Maya pulled with all her strength. The general's struggles grew weaker and weaker until finally he collapsed to the floor. Maya held on for another full minute to make sure he was not faking. When she finally let go, General Vorthak was dead. Maya stood over his body, breathing hard. The dog tags were still clutched in her hands, the chain broken from the struggle. She looked down at the metal tags and read the names engraved on them. Lieutenant Jake Torres was there, just as she had suspected. So was Sergeant Maria Santos, who had been captured 8 months ago. Maya recognized several other names from mission. Reports? You're free now, she whispered to the tags. Maya turned her attention to getting out of the room. Her legs were still chained to the chair, but she could move around in small steps. She searched the general's body and found a key card in his pocket. The card might give her access to the fortress's security systems. She dragged the chair over to the control panel and used the key card to access the computer. The screen lit up with alien text, but Maya had studied Krillian writing during her training. She could read enough to find what she needed. The fortress had a communication array on the roof. If she could reach it, she might be able to contact the human fleet and call for extraction. But first, she needed to get out of these chains. Maya found the security controls and unlocked the restraints around her legs. The chains fell away, and she was finally free to move normally. Her legs were stiff and sore from being chained for so long, but they would carry her. She also found the controls for the fortress's defense systems. The weapon towers that had threatened human ships were all controlled from this room. Maya studied the controls for a moment, then began shutting down the weapons one by one. Let's see how you like being defenseless, she muttered. With the towers offline, human ships would be able to approach the fortress safely. Maya hoped that Captain Morrison was still in the area. He would not have left without trying to rescue her. Maya tucked the dog tags into her pocket and headed for the door. The corridor outside was empty, but she could hear voices in the distance. The fortress was not completely deserted. She would have to be careful. She found a map of the fortress on the wall and studied it quickly. The communication array was 6 levels up, accessible through a maintenance shaft. It would be a difficult climb, but Maya had trained for this kind of infiltration. The maintenance shaft was narrow and filled with pipes and cables. Maya squeezed through the tight spaces, ignoring the pain in her injured ribs. Every few minutes, she stopped to listen for sounds of pursuit, but the fortress remained quiet. It took her 20 minutes to reach the communication array. The equipment was more sophisticated than anything she had seen before, but the basic principles were the same. Maya connected her emergency transmitter to the alien system and began broadcasting on all human military frequencies. This is Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez calling any human vessels in the area. I am inside the Krillian fortress on Kepler 442b. The fortress defenses are down. Repeat, the fortress defenses are down. She waited for a response but heard only static. Maya checked her equipment and tried again. Still nothing? Either there were no human ships in range, or the alien technology was interfering with her signal. Maya was about to try a third time when she heard footsteps in the corridor below. The aliens had discovered that their general was dead. Soon, they would be searching the entire fortress. She grabbed a weapon from one of the alien communication technicians and headed for the fortress's main hangar. If she could not call for rescue, she would have to rescue herself. The hangar contained several small alien spacecraft. Maya had studied Krillian ship designs during her training, and she thought she could fly one of them. The controls would be different, but the basic principles of flight were universal. She climbed into the nearest ship and began working through the startup sequence. The alien controls were confusing, but Maya was determined to figure them out. She had come too far to give up now. The ship's engines came to life with a low hum. Maya strapped herself into the pilot's seat and began rolling toward the hangar. Exit. She could see alien soldiers running toward the hangar, but they were too late to stop her. The ship lifted off and burst through the hangar, doors into the red sky of Kepler 442b. Maya felt a surge of triumph as she left the fortress behind. She had survived the torture, killed the general, and escaped from the most secure prison in the Krillian military, but her victory was short-lived. Alarms were sounding throughout the fortress, and she could see other alien ships launching in pursuit. The real challenge was just beginning. Maya pushed the ship's engines to maximum power and headed for the edge of the moon's atmosphere. She had the dog tags of 23 fallen Marines in her pocket, and she was going to make sure they made it home. Behind her, the fortress was in chaos. Without their general, the aliens did not know how to respond to the escape. Maya had bought herself some time, but she knew it would not last long. She reached for the ship's communication system and began broadcasting again. "This is Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez in a stolen Krillian ship. I am being pursued by enemy forces. Any human vessels in the area, please respond." This time she heard a familiar voice crackle through the static. "Maya, this is Captain Morrison. We're tracking your position. Hold on, we're coming to get you." Maya smiled for the first time in hours. She was going home. Maya's stolen Krillian ship shook violently as enemy fire exploded around her. 3 alien fighters were chasing her through the asteroid field that surrounded Kepler 442b. She had never flown an alien spacecraft before, but desperation was a powerful teacher. "Maya, can you hear me?" Captain Morrison's voice came through the communication system. "We're tracking your position, but those fighters are closing in fast." "I hear you," Maya replied, yanking the controls to dodge another blast of energy fire. "Where are you?" 2 minutes out." "Can you hold them off that long?" Maya looked at her fuel gauge. The alien symbols were hard to read, but the meaning was clear. She was running out of power fast. "I'll try." The lead fighter moved in for the kill, its weapons charging for a final shot. Maya waited until the last possible second, then cut her engines completely. The pursuing ship overshot her position, giving Maya a clear shot at its rear engines. She fired the alien weapons and watched the fighter explode in a ball of orange flame. The other 2 ships pulled back, becoming more cautious. Maya had bought herself some time, but not much. "This is Captain Morrison to all units," came a voice over the radio. "Target the enemy fighters pursuing our Marine. Show them what happens when they mess with one of ours." Maya looked out her cockpit window and saw the most beautiful sight of her life. 3 human fighters came screaming out of the asteroid field, their weapons blazing. The remaining Krillian ships were caught completely off guard. The battle was over in less than 30 seconds. The human pilots were flying angry, and angry humans were dangerous opponents. Both alien fighters were destroyed before they could retreat. "Maya, this is Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Murphy," came a new voice. "We're sending a transport to pick you up. Your flying days in that alien bucket are over." Maya felt tears running down her cheeks. She had not cried during 3 hours of torture, but hearing friendly voices broke through her emotional walls. She was going home. The transport ship docked with her stolen fighter 15 minutes later. Maya stumbled through the airlock and found herself surrounded by familiar faces. Denny Kim was there, along with Lisa Chun and Alex Price. Her whole team had made it safely home. "Lieutenant," Danny said, grabbing her in a bear hug. "We thought you were dead." "So did I," Maya admitted, several times. Dr. Elena Vasquez pushed through the crowd with her medical bag. She was Maya's oldest friend in the Marine Corps, and the relief on her face was obvious. "Let me take a look at you," she said. "You look like you've been through hell." Maya sat down on a medical stretcher and let Elena examine her injuries. The cuts on her hands had stopped bleeding, but her ribs were badly bruised. The worst damage was invisible, the after effects of the neural disruptor that still made her hands shake. "What happened in there?" Captain Morrison asked. "The fortress went dark 20 minutes ago." All their communications stopped. Maya reached into her pocket and pulled out the chain of dog tags. The metal caught the light as she held them up for everyone to see. The transport became completely silent. "General Vorthek is dead," Maya said quietly. "These belong to our people. 23 Marines who died fighting the aliens." Captain Morrison took the tags and examined them carefully. His face went pale as he read the names. Jake Torres, Maria Santos. These soldiers have been missing for months. Vorthak kept them as trophies, Maya explained. He wore them around his neck like jewelry. He thought it made him look powerful. How did you get them? Danny asked. Maya's expression grew hard. I took them off his body after I strangled him with them. The Marines in the transport looked at each other with amazement. None of them had ever heard of a prisoner escaping from Krillian custody, let alone killing their captor in the process. The fortress defenses are down, Maya continued. I shut them off before I escaped. Our ships can approach safely now. Captain Morrison was already reaching for his radio. Command, this is Morrison. The target fortress is defenseless. I repeat, the fortress is defenseless. We can take it whenever you're ready. Maya closed her eyes and leaned back against the stretcher. The mission was finally over. Her sacrifice had not been for nothing after all. The intelligence her team had gathered might have been fake, but the fortress itself was now vulnerable to human attack. Maya, Elena said softly, what did they do to you in there? Maya opened her eyes and looked at her friend. They tried to break me. They used a machine that caused incredible pain. General Vorthak thought he could make me talk. But you didn't, Danny said. It was not a question. No, Maya replied, I didn't. The transport docked with the main human ship an hour later. Word of Maya's escape had already spread through the fleet. Marines lined the corridors as she walked to the medical bay, all of them wanting to see the soldier who had killed the infamous General Vorthak. Maya felt uncomfortable with all the attention. She had only done what any Marine would do in the same situation. But she understood why her escape was important to the other soldiers. It proved that humans could not be broken, no matter what the aliens did to them. Admiral Jennifer Brooks was waiting in the medical bay when Maya arrived. She was the highest-ranking officer in the fleet, and Maya had never spoken to her before. Lieutenant Rodriguez, the Admiral said formally, on behalf of the entire human fleet, I want to thank you for your service. What you accomplished today will be remembered for generations. I was just doing my job, Admiral, Maya replied. No, Admiral Brooks said, you went far beyond your job. You turned a failed mission into a major victory. The fortress you escaped from has been the center of Krillian operations in this sector. Now we can destroy it, Maya nodded but said nothing. She was thinking about the 23 Marines whose dog tags she had recovered. Their families would finally know what had happened to them. There's something else, the Admiral continued. The intelligence your team gathered was indeed false, as you suspected, but your actions have given us something much more valuable. We now know that General Vorthak is dead, and the fortress command structure has collapsed. Elena finished treating Maya's injuries and gave her a clean uniform to wear. Maya felt more human as she put on the familiar clothes. The stolen alien ship and the torture chamber seemed like a bad dream now. Captain Morrison appeared with a small box in his hands. The families of these Marines need to know that their loved ones are coming home, he said, referring to the dog tags. Would you like to help us contact them? Maya nodded. It would be painful, but the families deserve to hear from someone who had known their sons and daughters. Someone who had made sure they would not be forgotten. Over the next few days, Maya made 23 phone calls to families across human space. Each conversation was difficult, but also meaningful. The parents and spouses of the fallen Marines were grateful to know that someone had cared enough to bring their loved ones home. News of Maya's escape spread throughout human military forces. The story grew with each telling, becoming a legend that would inspire soldiers for years to come. A single Marine had survived torture, killed her captor, and escaped from the most secure prison in alien space, but Maya herself preferred to focus on the smaller details. She kept one dog tag from the general's collection, not as a trophy, but as a reminder. It belonged to Lieutenant Jake Torres, who had been her friend before his capture. Jake's tag reminded Maya that courage was not about being fearless. It was about being afraid and doing your duty anyway. Every human soldier who faced the aliens in battle carried that same courage, and that was why humanity would never be defeated. The fortress on Kepler 442b. was destroyed 3 days later by human bombers. The explosion could be seen from orbit, a bright flash that marked the end of General Vorthak's reign of terror. Maya watched from the observation deck of her ship as the alien stronghold became a cloud of debris. The war was far from over, but humanity had won an important victory. More importantly, they had proven something that their enemies would never understand. Humans were strongest when they seemed weakest, and most dangerous when they appeared defeated. Maya returned to her quarters and sat down at her desk to write a report on her capture and escape. She wrote it simply and factually, without drama or embellishment. The truth was impressive enough without adding anything extra. When she finished writing, Maya looked at Jake Torres' dog tag one more time. Then she put it in her pocket and went to find her team. They had a new mission to prepare for, and there were more human soldiers who needed to come home.